The Volkswagen e-up is an electric version of the popular Up city car with a now longer WLTP rated range of around 159 miles. It remains a strong package, but after a glance at the asking price, you might wonder how it can justify itself on the balance sheet against a more conventional petrol-powered Up. That's what we're here to find out. Shall we get the jokes about this car being trialled first in Yorkshire out of the way good and early? Let's get to the facts here. Back in 2014, the e-up was Volkswagen's first toe in the water when it came to electric cars. Back then, the battery range was rated at just 83 miles, and that was on the old, rather unrealistic NEDC cycle. Today's e-up, this revised version, launched in 2019, can in real terms go almost twice as far thanks to a larger lithium-ion battery pack, and it's been much improved in terms of comfort and media connectivity, as it needed to be to combat the new wave of small battery-powered models now hitting the market. Should this one be on your shopping list? Let's find out. The Volkswagen Up actually makes a great basis for an electric vehicle. The power plant sits low in the car, a lithium-ion battery pack that in this revised model has almost doubled in capacity, up from 18.7 kilowatt hours to 32.3 kilowatt hours. The fact that this battery weighs 230 kilograms and is sited under the floor area has benefits and drawbacks. The plus side is that the centre of gravity is good and low, something you'll feel when tipping the Up into a corner. The downside is that whereas an entry-level petrol-powered Up weighs around 929 kilograms, this electrically powered version tips the scales at nearly 200 kilograms more. The sheer amount of torque available masks this fact quite well though, and the car steps off the line or in acceleration briskly, making 37 miles an hour from rest in around 5 seconds. Acceleration does tail off markedly above 45 miles an hour or so though, but given that this car is going to spend most of its time in urban areas, that's not really a pressing concern. As well as a standard driving mode, the e-up has two selectable economy profiles as standard, Eco and Eco Plus. Eco cuts the vehicle's peak power to 50 kilowatts, reduces the output of the air conditioning system and modifies the throttle response. Eco Plus limits maximum power to 40 kilowatts, further modifies the throttle response and disables the air conditioning. On top of these different operating modes, the range of the e-up can be greatly influenced by regenerative braking. Now there are 5 modes available: D, D1, D2, D3 and B. In D, the vehicle coasts when the accelerator is lifted. In each of the next levels, lifting off the throttle pedal provides an increased level of regenerative braking. In D2, D3 and B, the brake lights are automatically activated when the driver's foot is lifted from the throttle pedal. If anything, the extra weight means that the e-up rides better over typical city streets than its petrol counterpart, and a selectable e-sound feature emits a high-pitched sound to alert unwary pedestrians to your approach. Refinement is very good, as you'd expect from a car with no internal combustion engine. There's just a background whine from the electric motor and some bump and thump from the suspension, but otherwise it's extremely serene and takes the stress out of nose-to-tail queuing. Externally, the e-up can be identified by badges on the front wings and boot lid, as well as by distinctive C-shaped LED daytime running lights, this blue strip at the base of the bonnet, and 15-inch Tezzel alloy wheels. But these are details. Essentially, aside from the lack of tailpipes, the 5-door e-up is hard to tell from its petrol counterparts without looking for the badging. Front-end chrome embellishment is limited to the large central Volkswagen badge positioned between the small but prominent headlights. At just 3.54 metres in length, 1.64 metres in width and 1.48 metres in height, the Up is one of the smallest four-seater city cars, measuring a full 11 centimetres shorter than a rival Fiat Panda. Clever packaging means that interior space is maximised. The wheelbase of 2.42 metres is one of the biggest in the class, which combines with that compact power plant to allow the front bulkhead and crash structures to shift forward too. The port for charging the battery in the E-Up is hidden behind the fuel filling cap. The rear is where the E-Up's badgework is most overt, and like other Up models, there's no proper tailgate, just this glass hatch, apparently styled to look like a flat-screen TV. There are no obvious giveaways to this car's all-electric status once you get behind the wheel. There's a proper ignition slot rather than a start button, and even the large analogue fuel gauge looks endearingly conventional. As usual with an Up, the interior feels a slight cut above other city cars in terms of quality. That's partly because of the way everything's screwed together, and partly because of nice touches like the stitched leather covering for the steering wheel, the gear lever and the handbrake. The cabin design is clean and easy to get to grips with, featuring a compact centre pod for many of the minor controls, and the cool dished three-spoke steering wheel frames an instrument cluster of impressive functionality. Here you get a digital readout split into various sections. Settings, amongst other things, lets you activate or deactivate the e-sound feature that alerts urban pedestrians to your approach. There's an audio part to the display and a trip computer segment which shows your available battery charge, travel time, average consumption, range, distance, average speed and a digital speedometer. As for connectivity, well, as in other Up models, you get this smartphone docking attachment that sits above the climate controls and can accommodate handsets with screen sizes of up to 5.5 inches. The provision of this feature is important because, thanks to Volkswagen's provision here of a standard smartphone navigation interface and its integrated Maps and More app, once you've installed your handset into this attachment, everything on your phone will be completely accessible from inside the car. The phone screen can then effectively function as a dashboard infotainment display, allowing you to access features like navigation, Bluetooth phone connectivity, and car-specific information. If you don't want to faff around with your phone, the car itself provides this little 5-inch composition colour touchscreen below the climate controls, which has shortcut buttons for radio, media and phone, and can display the smallest reversing camera display we've ever seen. There are no complaints with regard to cabin storage, with bottle holders in each of the two doors, wide deep door pockets and two main cup holders, one at the bottom of the centre stack and one behind the handbrake. In addition, this open cubby in front of the gear stick is divided by a small shelf. You don't get a compartment for your sunglasses, but there's a useful coat hook on the B-pillar. The glove box isn't that big, it's mostly taken up by the handbook, but it does offer holders for pens and coins. What about the rear seat? Well, given the dinky exterior dimensions, it's a lot more spacious than you might expect back here, but there are a couple of irritations. First, that you don't get proper side windows, just these glass panes that you can angle out for extra ventilation. And secondly, that there's no opportunity to take a third centrally seated passenger, as you might want to if, say, you were transporting 3 small children. On the plus side, the Up's boxy dimensions mean that the roof doesn't taper towards the rear, so there's as much headroom in the back as there is in the front. Okay, so as an adult, you wouldn't really want to undertake a very long journey in the back here, but what car in this class is ever used for intercity travel? For short to medium length trips, the space that you get not only for your head but also for your knees and legs is fine, and it further helps that this bench is positioned slightly higher than the front seats to give rearward folk a better view out. Let's finish with a look out back. Now, because there's only this opening glass panel, you've a high lip to lift luggage over, but the boot you'll access is certainly very decently sized for a car of this class. Its 251 litre capacity figure being the same as that of the petrol variants, which means it's a tad bigger than is typical in this class. The 923 litre capacity with the seats folded is marginally down on the petrol model, due in part to the higher floor height. You'll pay just over £20,000 for this car after subtraction of the generous £3,000 government grant for plug-in models. As would be expected, that's not too much different a cost from that which has been applied to this car's two identically engineered Volkswagen Group design stablemates, Seat's Mi Electric and the Skoda Citigo e-iV. As you'd expect, given that this is a city car sized model, the asking price is quite a lot less than you'd pay for an example of Renault's slightly larger Zoe pure electric car, and it's significantly less than other super mini sized EV models like the Peugeot e-208 and the Vauxhall Corsa E. You want to allow a little extra for the optional wall box for home garage use. This provides a 3.6 kilowatt supply and can recharge completely a flat battery in about 6 hours. The standard e-up specification is roughly equivalent to that of a range-topping petrol-powered up model and includes luxuries such as heated front seats, cruise control and the Maps and More navigation system. Plus, the e-up adds a heated windscreen, a DAB digital radio with 6 speakers, that's a 6-speaker sound pack, plus you get all-round parking sensors and an electronic climate control system. As well as the standard Bluetooth connectivity and navigation functions of the petrol-powered UP's Maps and More device, the e-UP's unit includes charging point location details, range mapping, both one-way and round-trip, and vehicle charging management functions, including the ability to preset the vehicle's interior heating or cooling for certain times. Certain vehicle functions can also be operated remotely using Volkswagen's CarNet services on an Apple iPhone or Android mobile device. The e-up comes with a 3-year CarNet subscription that allows users to control or get information on charging status, battery management, doors and lighting, driving data, climate control, and the location of the vehicle. In terms of options, we'd want to consider the shark skin dashboard pack that really lifts the look of the interior, and the variable boot floor and luggage net. On to safety. Disappointingly, Volkswagen's City Emergency Braking autonomous braking system, previously an option on the up, is no longer offered. In fact, there's no camera safety kit of any kind, which isn't too disappointing on an affordable petrol-powered up, but is on a variant costing over £20,000. Safety basics include twin front and side airbags and ESC stability control. The usual ABS braking setup includes brake assist to help in emergency stops, plus there's ASR traction control, ISOFIX child seat fastenings, a hill hold function and a tyre pressure loss indicator. In Euro NCAP tests, the up scored a creditable 89% score for adult occupant safety and an 86% score in the safety assist category. The problem that the e-up faces that cars like the Renault Zoe don't is that it has a conventional petrol engine sibling that throws costs into sharp perspective. True, you'll pay very little to fuel the e-up, around £1 per charge on a typical UK electricity tariff based on around 30 miles per working day, which would total up to around £23 per month. In contrast, your monthly fuel bill in a petrol car based on that sort of mileage would be around £70 per month. So is saving £47 per month worth the inconvenience of owning a car that would take some planning to undertake a longer run at the weekend? Then there's the fact that a £47 fuel saving a month over 3 years comes to a mere £1,692, which, given that the e-up is around £6,000 more expensive than the Plusher's 5-door petrol engine up, rather casts a shadow on its value proposition. In order to justify this expense, you'd have to cover a lot more miles. Either you won't want to, or the e-up won't be able to. Free congestion charge entry is one recompense though. Your WLTP rated driving range in this model is now around 159 miles if you drive it reasonably gently, but that'll drop to well under 100 miles if you pedal it hard and run it with everything switched on. Your range here will depend on three things. A lot on your driving style, of course, and whether you're driving in normal mode or have selected either Eco or Eco Plus. Those are the two drive profile settings, these modifying throttle response and cutting back on or completely dispensing with the air conditioning. The range will also depend on the extent of the proactiveness you take in your approach to harvesting regenerative braking energy. Click the gear lever to the side and you'll access 3 brake recuperation levels. The braking effect when you lift off the throttle increasing as you get up to recuperation level 3, and increasing even further if you click the gear lever down into B, which is recuperation level 4. There are various displays on the central instrument binnacle digital readout to help you in your driving frugality. Available power is shown in normal and Emax readouts, Emax with the Eco Plus mode selected. The same display can also be selected to show average consumption in miles per kilowatt hour, and of course there's a screen option showing your available range. What about charging? Well, a standard full charge takes less than 9 hours from a standard 230 volt 2.3 kilowatt household socket. On top of this, all e-ups have a DC fast charging circuit as standard. Using the combined charging system, CCS, this enables a flat battery to be charged to 80% in 30 minutes at levels of up to 40 kilowatts using a DC supply. Cables are provided to connect to both a standard UK 3-pin socket and a CCS socket. Viewed as an EV entity, the e-up works well. It'll cost you a lot less than many other small electric vehicles, though you'll have to accept that it's slightly smaller and won't go as far as some rivals on each battery charge. It'll go a lot further than before, though, in this improved form. That range increase has put this contender back in the game. Only if you start to consider it against a petrol-engined up does the value proposition start to falter. Could you really justify the substantial premium necessary to own this zero-emissions variant? If you can, then this VW might prove to be a great urban buyer's choice. This car offers everything you need in a 21st century modern shopping runabout, and nothing that you don't. One thing's for sure, it won't be long before buying a small Volkswagen with an internal combustion engine will seem like a very odd thing to do.